Hi, everybody. Today, I just wanted to briefly talk about the Paris Climate Agreement, and this graphic here shows a really nice summary of the agreement. 197 countries ratified this legal agreement in 2016, and the key element of the agreement is the attempt to keep warming well below 2 degrees centigrade that we've talked about several times already, and with the intention of limiting warming to around or below 1.5 degrees centigrade. And that's kind of those are those key numbers that we've been talking about. 1.5 degrees will be dramatic change, but probably not catastrophic change. 2 is where you start seeing this catastrophic change in terms of drought, sea level rise, etc., all these phenomena we've been talking about. I think the critical part of Paris, the way that the agreement was developed and formulated, was the balance between developed countries and underdeveloped countries, and the agreement that developed countries would bring underdeveloped countries into this agreement. The underdeveloped countries are emitting a lot of carbon, but did not have the financial resources to make a commitment to reduce the carbon because it would impact their economies in really drastic ways. So the Paris Agreement brought these underdeveloped countries into the network by financing their carbon reductions. So the rich countries, as shown here, are providing money to not only subsidize the reductions of carbon in developing countries, but also to mitigating some of the adverse effects of climate change during the next century. So basically what we've got is the ability of burden sharing, and because there's an agreement, we have the ability for specialization. So, for example, countries are able to contribute in ways that they're able to, and I think this allows that this flexibility was what was critical. So, what the agreement is doing is it is allowing countries to give their own targets, and so the targets are reviewed every 5 years. So the first targets would be reviewed in 2025. Okay. And then a country can, based on their review, they can revise their target upwards or downwards. Okay. But in general, there's international pressure for countries to reach their targets. And so that's why this is going to be successful, is because, there's a competition to see that we're doing well in terms of our targets. And long term, the goal is to make the global economy carbon neutral by 2050 or so. So this carbon neutral meaning the emissions are balanced by carbon sinks, and those sinks can include things like carbon capture that we'll be talking about in Module 12. Okay, so these graphics do a really nice job of summarizing the Paris Agreement. Now, the other element of this is that it's not just countries that are doing their bits in terms of climate control and carbon control. It's also states and cities and even companies doing their best, because right now it looks really good for publicity for a company, for example, to be making efforts to cut their emissions. And in the U.S., with the intention of the U.S. to pull out of the Paris Agreement, which began in 2017, there's a climate alliance between states and territories in the U.S. to cut emissions themselves, basically, so that if the U.S. pulled out of the Paris Agreement, there would be states who would be upholding the terms. So right now, this climate alliance has 23 states, and they are themselves setting ambitious targets. So that's kind of the good news. If the U.S. were to pull out of Paris, it would be very bad from a visibility viewpoint, from a reputation viewpoint. But in the long term, it could be that states and cities in the U.S. will pick up the slack, and part of that is because there's so much money to be made from green technology. So that's kind of a quick rundown of the Paris Agreement. I'll be coming back to it over and over again, and I think it's something that you'll be hearing over and over again.